Hello and welcome back to GoldStockTrades.com. Today we have a new and special guest with us, Ranjit Sundar. Ranjit is President and CEO of Pacific Rim Cobalt Corp., which can be traded as BOLT, B-O-L-T on the CSE, and it also can be traded as PCRCF on the OTC. Thanks, Ranjit, for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me, Jeb.
Pacific Rim is focused on cobalt. Ranjit, and you're focused on cobalt in Indonesia. Talk to us a little bit of an overview of your experience in Indonesia and what you're doing with the company and the project that you're advancing in Indonesia.
Sure, Jeb. I guess, first of all, I've been based in Southeast Asia in the mining sector and finance sector for about 25 years. When I wanted to enter the cobalt space, looking closer at cobalt metal, where it comes from, it is a byproduct. There is only one pure producing cobalt mine in the world. I believe it's in Morocco. Everything else comes from a copper mine or a nickel mine, nickel laterite mostly. Indonesia, I owned and ran one of the largest mining service companies in the late 90s, early 2000s. So I was very familiar with the country. And one thing about Indonesia, it is one of the largest sources and exporters of nickel laterite in the world. The Philippines also has a lot of nickel laterite, as does Australia. So I focused my attention on finding a world-class cobalt project within a nickel laterite. And narrowing in with my team of engineers and people who have put cobalt projects into production and people who understand nickel laterites, we got it down to a very short list from 100 to about 10. And at the end of the day, we have what is our first cobalt project, which is the TNM project in Indonesia, where it is a nickel project with a very high cobalt credit. So we are looking for cobalt where it naturally exists. We're not trying to redefine a new technology and how to separate it. We are just focusing on where you should be focused on, either a copper mine or a nickel mine.
Ranjit, let's discuss Indonesia. I know that some of the largest copper producers, such as Freeport, are in Indonesia. Talk to us about, from a junior perspective, the pros and the cons of being in Indonesia and what Pacific Rim has uniquely to advance this project.
Well, the biggest pro for Indonesia, for myself, is the fact that the people who are our end buyer, who are our partners, which are Chinese, Japanese, Koreans, they are heavily involved in Indonesia. I believe there's 13 smelters being built by the Chinese right now in Indonesia, if not more. So China loves Indonesia because it's geologically rich and has a very long culture of mining. Japan, Korea, all love Indonesia. If you remove Asia and you come all the way back to North America, of course there could be some mystique about many countries in the world, South American countries, Africa, and Indonesia. But I'll get more into our project in a moment, but Indonesia is where you need to be if you want to supply cobalt to China. They're not going to be looking at anything in North America because there is nothing there. They understand the mining laws of Indonesia. The Chinese know what permits need to be in place. They are very, very experienced and understand Indonesia, as am myself. But if someone was to come to me from Vancouver or Toronto and email me a project in Indonesia and I had never been to Indonesia or operated there, it definitely would be buyer beware, as it would be with many countries. You have to have worked there for a very long time to understand what actually is a good project and what to look out for. But we're very comfortable there. We've been involved in lots of projects in Indonesia, some production deals, and we have a very strong team.
One of the things that I found so interesting, Ranjit, is the permits that were issued already. the environmental and production permits. Could you discuss a little bit about the current permitting that's in place?
Sure. I've actually built a company which was private, took it public, and sold it junior before. Shareholders made a lot of money. It was called Red Hill Energy. And during that process, I realized a few things from my next deal, which happened to be 8 or 9 years later, which is Pacific Rim Cobalt, is I did not want to get involved with a project which was not going to be able to be permitted, which did not have a resource, and did not have and which was access challenging. That meaning I did not want to build a haul road. I've been involved in projects like that, and they're very challenging. We went looking higher up. That being, within Indonesia, the project had to have a production permit and it had to have an environmental permit. Both of those can take a very long time to get in any country, as well as Indonesia, and can be very expensive. That was a very important box. The next box I had to have was a lot of previous work, so I do not have to depend on drill bit success to see if there's any cobalt there, to see if the resource is there. And this project has had over 800 drill holes, the majority by US Steel, so it's a credible operator in the 70s and 80s. And I needed a production grade. Well, our grade is 0.11% cobalt and up to 0.20% cobalt. An equivalent grade is the Clean Tech project of Robert Friedland's in Australia. I think they're about a $1.3 billion company, and they are doing cobalt from nickel laterite. That's our biggest comparable. Our grade is the same, but our nickel byproduct is double the amount. I believe they're operating on 0.7% nickel, and we're 1.31% nickel. So the grade was there of what I needed. The permits were there for environmental and production, and we land at the airport. We drive along a hard paved road for 30 kilometers, and we're at the site. The site is on the coast. The site has excellent infrastructure. Bathymetric surveys for deep water ports have been completed, and at the local level, they welcome our project. So a lot of boxes were ticked, which needed to be ticked, or we would not have proceeded.
And, what's so unique, you have this historical, the mineralization, I guess, starts pretty shallow or from surface. Is that correct?
That's correct. The Philippines and Australia, they have a lot of nickel laterite, but their cobalt grade is generally lower, half of our cobalt grade, and it's deeper. On our project, it starts at surface. Of the 856 drill holes and 26 test pits, the average depth was 20 or 25 meters, and mineralization started at surface to 10 or 15 meters. So when the historical estimates were done on the project, they only were done on 5 of the 9 cobalt laterite deposits on the project, and they were only done with information based on extremely shallow drilling. So yes, from a future mining, strip ratio, ease of mining, it is a very good project. That's everything is sitting right on surface. That being the limonite zone. Limonite sits on top of saprolite, and saprolite is generally the nickel, and the limonite is the cobalt. And our limonite zone is right at surface.
And most investors are well aware that cobalt prices have gone from $10 and now it's closing in on the $40 mark. And this project, you can see from the map, you have Japan, you have India, you have Korea, and of course the largest cobalt consumer of all, China. So Ranjit, take us through where this project, how this project is unique and how it compares against some of these other cobalt companies that have started up.
Well, as I mentioned before, our nearest comparable is definitely Clean Tech, Robert Friedland's cobalt project in Australia. It is also a nickel laterite project. It is similar grade cobalt. I believe they're about a $1.5 billion market cap, and it was spent about $200 million. And to date, they have about 100 million tons of ore. Our historical estimates are about 37 million tons of ore, non-compliant, just based on previous operators, the US Steelwork. Our target is definitely something similar to Cleantech's. Look at Cleantech's market cap, you look at our market cap at, I believe it's about 50 million Canadian dollars. There's a lot of room to grow. The project is going to get its value going forward on our bulk sampling, our metallurgy, and actually sort of putting together a flow chart of here's the project and here are the battery materials, which the two very important battery materials are cobalt and nickel. People can get very excited about our project being a cobalt project, but there's equal amounts of nickel in our project, and there's actually more nickel in a battery than cobalt. So we have two of the four key components in the EV battery space. Only thing we're missing is lithium and manganese, but people can find that elsewhere. So the project, again, I always use the word ticks all the boxes to eliminate some challenges. There'll be challenges going forward, but they're going to be mostly on recovery, processing options, metallurgy. We will transform the resource into a JORC 43101 compliant resource. It's very early days. We just got our camp built. We're just organizing the topography, the mapping guys, the drilling. So it's going to be a very busy year on this project. And as I mentioned before, we reviewed a lot of projects, and within our sphere of interest, that being cobalt and a nickel laterite, I would think that you're going to see us add to our portfolio at some stage. And the reason why we would add to our portfolio is because we don't want anybody else to get it. It's a very good option. And when it comes to shareholder value, I've done enough business in China and Japan that the bigger the better, because they can understand scope and scalability easier than a Canadian company, not get scared away. So I'm building the project for a specific reason. I know what they need, and our projects will tick all those boxes over and above some of the other cobalt companies focused in North America. There's something new. In my space, I wish everybody luck in the cobalt sector, but they're trying to do something a little different in North America than we're doing. We're going a more traditional route. In North America, they're trying to be the first on a sort of world-class level. The Ontarios, the very interesting projects. I like a lot of those companies. We're just sort of building something specific to offtake or a buyer in 18 to 24 months.
Ranjit, let's discuss finally your plans for 2018. What could shareholders look forward to?
I think you can look forward to us explaining to the market how we're going to turn this project from a bunch of great ore on a permitted, logistically friendly project into battery materials. We're going to undertake the necessary studies and test work to explain to the market how we're going to do it, how much it's going to cost, and what the timeline is. Us explaining that to the market is us also explaining that to our future partners and takeover partners. We can also expect us to start construction of a pilot plant by the end of the year within Indonesia to start to test some of our bulk samples in some of our zones to, again, prove that the project works, prove that the economics are there, show that we're not sitting on $1 billion capex project, which is never going to go into production. We're looking at something in the range of $50 to $150 million to put something world-class into production. So you'll see us moving very quickly over the next 6 to 12 months with steady news flow showing that the project works, as well as potentially additional projects within the same area, which can play off each other as far as operational teams and whatnot.
Ranjit Sundar, President, CEO of Pacific Rim Cobalt Corp., which can be traded as BOLT, BOLT on the CSE, and as PCRCF on the OTC. You can get more information at PacificRimCobalt.com.